Hi, my name's Brenda, if we haven't met before, and I'm going to be bringing you a new beginner hand knitting video today. So let's jump right in. Okay, so we're going to start with our slip knot and unroll some of this chunky chenille yarn. And today I'm using the Joann's Burnett blanket extra thick in vintage ivory. And so I'm going to show you just the basics. We'll start with the slip knot. You leave a little bit of a tail. I usually do a few inches, and then I cross my working yarn over the tail and till you have a loop. Then you put your yarn through the back of that loop and snug it tight with the tail. You want to have about 3 finger widths for each cast on stitch. So 1, 2, pull your working yarn through, 3, 4, and what I try to do is keep it laying flat on the table. I hold it steady with one hand, and then I pull the working yarn through the back of each hoop. Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. See, you'll notice that I'm holding it with my back 2 fingers on my left hand. So I'm holding it steady to keep the tension nice and even. You want to have your stitches about the same size for the cast on chain. Now what you're going to want to do, couple of ways you can do this. You can go through the arms on the top of the stitch once you turn your chain over. Or what I'm going to do is go through the middle and with your index finger and thumb, pull the working yarn through each middle part of that stitch. So whichever way is easier for you, like I said, you can do the top loops or you can do the middle. Both provide a nice chain. Especially I've heard that left-handed knitters have a hard time with the middle cast on. So I recommend that they do the top arms of the stitch to cast on. And I'm doing 21 stitches today. That's what I would normally do for a baby blanket. And I'm only going to do, I'm not making a full blanket today. I'm just going to do an example so you can see the basically 4 different steps to creating your own chunky blanket. Okay, we're going to pull the last stitch through, unwind some yarn. Let me just knit that border stitch. And you want to keep that snug so they don't get too loose, because this yarn does stretch over time. So you just keep pulling your yarn through the back of each loop all the way across. Get some more yarn out. For me, the cast on was the hardest part to learn when I first started 5 years ago, hand knitting. Okay, make sure that when you get to your edge, you're not twisting that edge stitch. And so you can knit each stitch. It'll be a little bit tighter on the edges, but coming back, I am gonna only knit the edges once, and then I will not knit them a second time, going back as you're continuing the blanket. So you'll see when I get to this edge stitch, I will knit it once to finish the row, and you want to have them about 2 finger widths. So I finish that row and then I leave that stitch. And I go on to the next one. So like I said, you knit it on the way, all the way through to the end, but when you're going back, you leave it, and that's just the way I like to do it, unless I'm doing color changes. In that case, I will knit every stitch on each side so that it's equal. Again, knit the border and then leave that stitch. Okay, so I've knit 4 rows across, up, and so now we're going to cast off. And what you're going to do is take the last 2 stitches and put them on your finger. Then you're going to take the working yarn and pull it through the back. You'll have 1 stitch. You grab the one next to it. Again, you want it to be 3 finger widths, just like the cast on. So a little bit bigger than your blanket stitches. So you have 1, you grab the second, pull the yarn through, and you just keep doing that all the way to the end. Super easy. And again, you know, you don't want it to be too tight on these stitches so it doesn't curl your blanket. And I know it looks a little funky right now because it's just a sample size, but this is just the basic steps to your chunky hand knit blanket. Okay, now we're at the end and you have 1 stitch left. We're going to trim this off with a couple inches. And I'm going to grab my scissors. trim it off. Then we will stick it through the back of that stitch and cinch it tight. Then I tie a knot and I trim the excess off and tuck it into the chain. Now I take a needle and thread and sew that knot in, but you don't have to. And then I do the same with the tail on the cast on. Make a knot, trim it, and tuck it into the chain. I just feel that doing it with a needle and thread finishes it nicely. So I hope you've enjoyed this beginner video, and happy knitting!